Live from the Real Guppy Dockside Learning and Multimedia Center. It's the Real Angler Podcast with Community Kevin Brannon. Brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Island Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. And now, here's your host, Community Kevin Brannon. Today's guest, Carl Soto of Soto Designs.
Good afternoon, everybody. Here we are in the Dockside Learning Center with a friend of ours, friend of the program, friend of mine, Carl Soto. Carl is an artist, into special effects as well, and props for movies. When I started at Oxnard College Television, Carl was leaving, right? You were just finishing up the last little studio before we got into the main studio when we used to do it on the campus, before they put us on a little, into the performing arts part, and we were part of North Hall 6. It was pretty interesting. We're like the closing class of North Hall 6 kids. And then we also hosted the Banana Festival together. And we got some stuff coming up down the road with our coastal critters that we've talked about before about with our public access television when we start doing some more animated type of work. And Carl actually put the signs up painted for the front of the Guppy Dockside Learning Center and the one that faces the ocean side, and did our windows for Christmas. So he's quite the artist, and anytime I need some art done or something made. And then he actually created this, if you know who Feed Me Seymour is from, what is it? Little Shop of Horrors is my mom's favorite movie, and he made me one of those. And then we shared actually a section of a building where I was teaching, helping boxers with their personal training, and he had his art studio right next to us. So that's when I seen all his his robotics and animation at work. So that's Carl Soto. He's here, and he brought his guest Chongo with him. So we have Chongo,
hey, what's up?
And we have Barry here.
Hi,
so go
Barry.
ahead and
how you doing, Barry?
Go ahead and tell some of our people
doing,
some of your story, man. Who you are and what you do and what got you into it. And we'll just kind of ask questions as we go. We don't really script anything, and more just here to tell some stories of who you are, and then some projects we'll probably be working on in the near future.
Yeah. Well, as Kevin said, thank you for having me here.
Of course.
I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm born and raised in Oxnard, California. I have many family in Oxnard, California, and like I said, I worked in the movie industry. I started off as a little kid and ended up using my traits and my fun of doing artwork and creating it into a career, and being able to harness all my artistic skills and my artistic abilities to be able to create not only two-dimensional artwork but three-dimensional artwork, and be able to work in the movie industry. And I'm also trying to get more and more kids. My goal is to get more and more kids off the video games and into more and more artwork, so that way they can be more imaginative and get them off the video games. I know that a big thing right now is parents handing their kids the cell phone and kind of as their babysitter, but that's really not a good thing. And the kids have to be exposed to fishing,
Yep,
and other things. They got to be able to be out in the world, because they've got to be able to create and use their imagination and do stuff.
So when you walk into our learning center here, this little sign that's pinned up there, you can see where the dream sign is at, and one next to it is like where your imagination can set you free or go wild, right? And I'm a big Reading Rainbow fanatic. When I was a kid growing up, I watched it 2 or 3 times a day. I think like 11 o'clock, 4 p.m. and like 7 p.m. And I'd watch it. And I remember, that's part of the theme song is, about your imagination, and then the butterfly soaring around. So that's what we say here at the Dockside Learning Center. We're going to put the A in STEAM. We applied for some grant money for art, for visual art, musical art, and culinary art all being combined, because some of us aren't super academic, but we're very creative, and that's what we like to do here. So you talk about the imagination and creativity. But I think with some of the devices, there's ways where artists can actually put their stuff out more on platforms. And we're going to teach some of that here, that it's not just like something to babysit, but it's actually your office. You could capture photography with it. I was doing my photography off my phone. So how do we utilize modern day technology in this creativity world?
Well, like you said, both with photography and also there are free apps now that do stop motion animation, and the kids can use like simple things like Legos and other things to end up being able to create actually animation on their phone. And it is a learning curve. A lot of people, whenever we used to talk about stop motion animation, they're like, "Oh man, that's a big process." But I always see it. I'm end up setting up the camera, I end up setting up the tripod, and then I get one of my action figures, and then I start shooting animation, and then all of a sudden it's one frame, then it's another frame, then it's another frame,
Yeah.
then I'm up till maybe about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning shooting animation.
But this is the part where I just came from the Chamber of Commerce breakfast. And I think when you do what you love and you love what you do, you don't even realize it's 3 a.m, right?
Right.
If you want to play music and you want to
Right.
jam out, you don't realize that you forgot to eat, and because you're honed in on the things that we love to do. So
Right.
even when you're up that late and that's when your imagination, you're probably get some of your coolest ideas about midnight, right?
Right. It's fun. It's fun just doing stuff, like you said, when you love what you do, and that's part of what the education that we'll end up giving them is, you could either go through life and have to work a hard job, or you can go through life and enjoy what you do, and then time will go by fast, and it doesn't even feel like you're working because you're having fun.
Yeah. And then you get a chance to serve, I believe, too, man. Like if which is cool about us talking about art, because sometimes I talk about like culinary art, right? And when I was watching a show, Diners, Drive-In, and Dives, I love watching that show, not just because I'm a foodie, and hearing people's dreams, though, like in the stories where guys like, so what made you open up this taco truck? And he's like, well, I went to school for 8 years to, work in the attorney, but I didn't love it. I love this. And look at how much love I'm putting in. Then you start donating your time or teaching somebody, right? It like gives you like, there's these ripple effects of when you're doing what you love and loving what you're doing, that you're actually being a servant. Yeah, it gives you an opportunity to be a servant at the same time of being a creative artist.
Right. I actually have to take some of those culinary classes because I really don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
I know to make stuff, but I don't really know how to cook. I mean, the closest thing I make is steaks, but that's it.
So we have this tagline that says, do your taste bud a favor and play with your food, right? So same with art that you're doing, right? If you just give somebody a canvas and say, here, give it a try. Here's some seasonings, here's some marinade, here's 3 cuts of meat, and then you just get a chance to kind of doodle and stuff. Are you a doodler? Do you sketch and doodle things out?
I sketched a lot in school. It's funny because I talked to an old classmate, Mikey Warris, at the Latino Business Expo, and he remembered me because I was one of the kids that was too busy daydreaming and sketching and stuff in class that I wasn't really paying attention, and I was busy drawing and sketching, and he was like, "You're way back when you were drawing monsters," and I told him, I said, "Mikey, I still am drawing monsters."
Is there anything in particular, like your niches that you love? I mean, I've seen you do. I remember one time I was at a pumpkin patch, and I was going through this maze, and there was Bride of Frankenstein was in there, and there's some other ones, and I was looking at all this art because I love art too, man. And they said who did it, and I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense, man, because you're, but how you find little pockets, man, to continue to share your creativity across. But is there anything that stands out? Like, do you have a favorite, or you just do you get bored with one and then go to another?
I kind of get bored with one and then end up moving to the other. I started off with, when I was younger, when I was a teen, I ended up moving from 2D animation, 2D illustrations, and then started I wanted to get into airbrushing because it was the 80s and it was a big thing way back when.
80s, bro, you're the same age as me. Yeah. Bro, were you like 5 or 6 years old?
No, I'm older than you are. So in the 80s, we used to airbrush jackets, and we used to airbrush. Everything was airbrushed.
Oh, fashion. Hold on, I'm writing that down. I'm getting as you're talking. Sorry, because I know we're gonna do some work in the future. Okay. I'm just taking some notes of.
So we used to airbrush jackets, and everybody wanted everything airbrushed, like that they would see at Magic Mountain. So my thing was to get into airbrush, but I couldn't afford an airbrush because at the time airbrushes were about $200. And the compressors were about maybe $300. And for a teen, it was a little bit expensive. So what I did was I started off with spray paint cans. And my mom bought me a bunch of spray paint cans, and I did my first mural at Oxnard High School way back when. And that's how I ended up being able to control the spray paint cans. And then I moved on to airbrush, and we used to do like heavy metal Iron Maiden jackets and stuff like that. But we also used to paint in the 80s. We used to paint the mini trucks way back when.
Yeah.
The
My brother had one.
Yeah.
Little Chevy Love, little mini truck.
Yeah. We used to paint a lot of the lettering on the back of the mini trucks and be able to make money and be able to do stuff that way.
Because I believe as an artist, especially me being film, I started out doing quinceañeras. I think I filmed a wedding or two. I know I did my attorney's wedding, and commercial. We did some music videos, like whatever you can do to kind of help generate a little bit of funds for what to kind of pay for your supplies and stuff, right? Like you're just trying to find your own funding and showcasing your art. So it's good. I'm glad you're a guest today, man, because we haven't really tapped into the world of art like I would like to more, and people to hear, because we do talk a lot about entrepreneurship. So when I say we don't talk about it that much, art is a different type of entrepreneurship. The gigs that you do, how you kind of not reinvent yourself, but you could find these patterns of niches to continue to, why this is hot, you could get on it and learn some more of your skill. But as an artist, you're kind of always, maneuvering to, as a untangible object, right?
Right. Well, one of the things about artists is there's two different ways of looking at it, because in some cases, some artist ends up focusing on just one subject. And, Michelangelo didn't focus on one subject. He focused on everything. He focused on sculpture. He focused on inventing. He focused on everything. Also, too, with drawing and with fishing or with anything you really want to accomplish, don't be afraid of it. And just do it. You're gonna fail. There's a saying that the masters are the ones who ended up making the most mistakes, and the beginners have not. You've got to be able to try it. You've got to be able to go fishing. You got to be able. Don't be afraid of it. You're gonna fail, but the more you fail, the more you learn.
That's why we in our fishing, what we say, like one of the first things that we teach them is just confidence. We're doing them in with fishing. But it's the confidence of like how to bait they'll grab a fishing pole and their hook and their bait, and they're all trying to like hold it all together in one, and it's under your armpit, and you could see there's an uncomfortability. And I said, look, check it out. Lay her out against the rail, keep this much line out so you could use both hands, and then they get that. Then you get the bell, then you got to flip it over to cast it, right? But technically, we're just really teaching them the confidence. And then after a couple of casts and a couple of backlashes and a couple of tangles, they start working on it themselves. They start tinkering it out, and then so there's it's more of a confidence, and also like you say, repetitions. When you said master, I'm thinking like karate, right? And you have to throw all those punches and kicks to land that one, right? And they'll teach you the same thing. There's a repetition aspect of it, and consistency that kind of honing that craft.
Yeah, I believe everybody is an artist in one way or another. A mechanic's an artist. There's mechanics, there's people who cook, there's people who dance.
What about like people that build houses and stuff, right? You got your engineering and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're artists too, because they've got to have, they go through repetition after they end up doing designing. And in some cases, they honed in on a certain art to be able to create and be able to do stuff. I can't honestly, I bet you I could build a house, but since I'm an artist, I do things a little bit different. So I believe one door would probably be 10 foot by maybe 8 foot tall. So my artwork's a little bit different. But it's just like I said, you have to get to the point of just being able to put pen to paper. I've met kind of
like setting our goals, right? We talk about you see our goals there. Right. The simple of just putting pen to paper, sketching it,
setting the goals. Yeah. I met a friend a while back ago from high school, and she kept saying, I can't draw. And I said, all you have to do is get a piece of canvas and start painting.
We got our, can you grab me the Bob Ross bobblehead doll right there? We have our own Bob Ross right here, man. Like the way that you have your own style, the way that you kind of like help and make it and simplify it for people to really begin, basically just get them started, right? You don't try to overcomplicate being it. Are you a teacher of, here?
Hey, how are you?
Are you a teacher of
How are you, Bob?
Hey, this is Chongo. So tell us about Chongo, then I'll ask you about some other work. Go ahead. Hey, how'd you come up with Chongo?
Chongo is a guy that we have here, and he was part of the Banana Festival, which we did.
Yep.
And I got inspired to end up making Chongo. Hey, who you making? Hey, Bob. So he wanted to come to the banana festival, and he wanted to see how many bananas he heard about bananas. Yeah, bananas.
I think they go around the world 3 times if you were to line them up.
Yeah. So yeah, I did check out some of Bob Ross's stuff when I was younger, and I did look at some of his stuff. I ended up doing a Bob Ross style. I was on set one time, and we had an area that needed to be covered, and so what I did was I covered it with some paper.
I'm gonna grab a coastal critter.
Hey
while you
guys,
talk.
what's going on?
Tell the audience about that while I grab another coastal critter.
So I ended up having to put up a piece of material, and it had nothing on it. So I ended up doing a quick Bob Ross painting, and it was funny because I did this quick Bob Ross. It was about 5 minutes, and I grabbed some paints and quickly painted this background of a little house. I did the little house and the happy trees of what you would paint. It ended up showing up in the background of a movie. The movie was called Prepare to Die, and it was an asylum picture, and I was a production designer, but I needed a way to cover this area, so it was appreciated.
Now, but I mean by the Bob Ross meaning, as far as like how he tries to ease it in that anybody can do it, right? Like that part. Maybe you have definitely. Carl Soto has his own, like he said, his own type of art, which is incredible, man. Like when they said this was him and the way you do stuff that I've seen you create, you definitely have your own style. Do you do a lot of, as an artist, did you, like you brought up Michelangelo, do you do a lot of studying in the craft too, and art, or do you like, is that something you're fascinated with other artists?
Yeah, I study in the different types of artwork, at first, well, when I was a kid,
let me get you come on this side a little bit more, buddy. Get a little closer. There you go.
I was in history class. And in history class, we were going through the beginning of the history stuff, and they had all the art in the back of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was busy looking at the metal sculptures, the bronze sculptures of Michelangelo, Leonardo, and all the rest of it. And I kept telling the teacher, when are we going to get to this part? When are we going to get to this part? I'm done doing the Civil War and all the rest of the stuff. I'm in 6th grade. Okay, this is cool, but I want to get to the bronze pictures. And she was like, oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. So I was reading ahead of all the bronze and all the other stuff. And then I started looking into how beautiful these pieces were and the techniques of people, of what they were analyzing and everything else that they were doing. Art is out there, but the whole thing is you have to be able to open up your mind to be able to see it. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to look at it, take some time, take a breath, and enjoy the artwork, enjoy the colors and everything else. And that's part of life. You got to be able to enjoy it, and see what you have.
He's painting the picture for you right now.
Yeah.
So these are some of our coastal critters that we talked about before. So this is Shelly. I bring her when I go out, right? This is our mascot. This is the little one. Our mascot is an octopus, because we have our hands in all kinds of different things, government, education, fishing industry, all kinds of stuff, right? And she comes on the road with me, Cheeto. And then this is Sir Chomps-a-Lot. We let the kids at Ventura School. So as we start to talk, moving in the future, we got a partnership with Caps in Ventura. And I'd like you to come along and we could do it. So this guy will pop up like, hey, I'm Community Kev, and today we're going to talk about something. Hey. Either you could use the ones that we have, or we could create some new ones that you could, help, or maybe even some of our students can help come up with a couple of concepts. But I'm really looking forward to us moving forward in this educational kind of a puppet. I've been studying a couple of documentaries I'm studying because we're doing some marketing. Again, one is Butterfly in the Sky. That's the one with LeVar Burton and PBS style, right? And basically it's what are the benefits of our program, right? To go along with our concept and who we are. And then the other one, the Jim Henson documentary, I already watched it one. And then the third one, I watched one with John Williams, the composer. He did a lot of scores for like Jaws and Star Wars and Jurassic Park. So we want to bring those themes together where students with music will be adding to part of what we create. And we'd like you to really be part of that next movement going in to student stuff. You in for that? I know we talked about it about this time last year, because we were going to do it like after our October blue carpet premiere. Mm-hmm. So now we have that. We have some film. Yeah. We could borrow their equipment, and we have a film crew. So it's time we take that next step, man.
I'm actually doing some model building of some ships at the house. So mm-hmm. I'm building some models and some big house, and then that I'm doing stop motion experiments. Oops, jungle. You're gonna have to kick back.
Look at him. He's looking at it like, what'd you say?
Why? Why? You said that there was fishing here.
Oh, there's
You
fishing
didn't say
and
I was gonna
catching.
be a bait. I'm gonna kick back over here, okay? So anyways, yeah. So I'm working on models and stuff at the house. I'm working on some houses and some ships, and I'm trying to get back into more of my practical effects, more and less CG stuff, because I was brought up. One of the first movies that I worked on, I did about 6 months on, and we did about the same amount of special effects that the original Star Wars was done, and we built full-size pirate ships. We built full-size props and sets, and everything else was practical. And it was actually, we did glass paintings also too, so that way you could see through and be able to no CG stuff. It was pre-computer. It was right on the cusp of computer age. So we were about 94. And we did everything practical. Everything was done. So I'm working on some ships, actually some steampunk ships, because I was part of, I was part of the steampunk festival of Oxnard, but they kind of got inspired of the steampunk ship that I originally built for the Oxnard Christmas parade. So
this guy's everywhere. See me? I don't think I've stopped smiling, bro, since you sat down, just because of it. It's so intriguing in the art and where you've worked. And you know, I love being a filmmaker, but I think you inspire me on all the stuff you do, man. So I'm just like hearing you and your time you put in there and how much you enjoy it. So I'm really getting a kick out of you being a guest today, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I still see, I know that everybody says that the movie industry is a business, but I still see it as art. It has to be art, because if it's not art, nobody's going to watch it.
So that's what we have. If you see that behind you, I got that poster I bought, it says film on it,
Yep.
And I see it as an art, and that's why when we put in the A in STEAM, so STEAM is STEM with art, right?
Okay. Science,
technology, engineering, and then you have you could either be an angler or an artist, and then the M for math, and math and graphics, and there's certain things that math go into there, but also you need your money. You can make a living, so let's not leave out that part. But also for an entrepreneurial side that we're teaching is, again, how do you display your art? How do you get it displayed? So when these students they work together on our film, it's all art based, but then now they're getting exposure throughout the country on our television show for them to get their stuff. Now it's not just hanging up at grandma's house, or how you display an art as a showcase, and then they get a chance to showcase their art. So we're never losing the art aspect.
That's awesome.
It is a business because you all want to do it, but if you don't know the business aspect, it could be a hobby forever, or you can get it into where it's actually funding your life, and you could just really concentrate on being an artist.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another thing too about artwork is there are artists, and there are artists who do it, but they get very intimidated and don't want to end up showing anybody of their vision and be able to have it out there. And I always say one of the worst things to do is to do a painting and hang it in your closet, because nobody's going to see it. Why not put it out? And it is your art. You should be proud of it, because not only does it come from your brain, but it also comes from your heart. And that's where the art should be out there. And it doesn't matter. Another thing too is what I tell kids and adults: it doesn't matter what other people think, because it's your art.
Right.
It's something you love. It's something you put out there, and it's something that should be out there.
So when I started putting My Real Angler's YouTube channel together, right, and I was scrutinized from people I knew that had been in the business longer or whatever, and you're making these videos and they look like they're school. They are. I'm barely in like my second semester of Oxnard College, but I didn't let it stop me from putting up video, and it's mine. And the kid would be like, "Well, how many followers and likes?" I'm like, I'm an artist. Right. I don't concentrate on the number over here. I just want to put my art out, and whoever likes it, and whoever doesn't. You can have a million hits and a million likes, but and then even my people that when I sell my photography, my Brighten Your Spirit art, I call those my collectors, they collect my work, what I mean?
Wow,
There's a collection of it out there, right? And they buy different pieces, and I have a story behind the piece. And then when you're, as an artist, and people are looking at it, and you get a chance to explain your pieces to them, what made you, inspired you to do this, and what you did, that's what I mean when we talk about our teaching confidence first in fishing, is because of what you just said. Well, if we just start getting them confidence about it, that could be the level. So if you merge confidence and you're remembering that it's art and your passion, then you'll be ready to present it and showcase it.
Right.
And that's where we're going to teach both components, you know?
It's having that confidence. It's having that confidence. And like I said, it comes from your heart. If it comes from your heart, then it should be out there.
And here's another part of that. This is a great conversation, is that, and don't, it's your art. So don't let anybody compromise. Oh, you take kids fishing and you know, your show doesn't have this. You're not in an exotic location, but that's not what I wanted.
Right.
I wanted a how-to show.
Yeah.
I wanted that PBS version. I didn't want a hardcore show where we're fishing in some exotic location and, you know, who we're trying to appeal to the hardcore angler, where we're like, we're an educational show for everybody. And you could hear that name. And if you were a little bit more hard in it, but it's like, that's not my vision. Right. I'm not going to compromise the show that I want to put together, art that I want to present, because that's how these people think. But now it's like, oh, Kev, everything you're, what, you know. So, one, I didn't know what I was doing, and I did it anyway, right? Took classes, hung out with my TA. Two, I stuck to my own style, like you do, right? You have your very own style,
I have my very own style.
And the confidence, and then look at how many gigs you get. Again, you're kind of in so many different communities, man. You probably, and I'm not super into the art world, but I know most people that know art around here know your name. You know?
Really?
Yeah. You're out here, man.
Yeah, and then not only am I doing that, but I also do the special effects portion of it. So
I was going to get into that next right here. So let's hop into that.
I do help the police departments doing triage makeups. I help for a live action drill.
Is that like where there's like when they're all laid out like a DU, like a crash or something?
Kinda,
that?
I did the first 15, which is an after school drunk driving program in the local high schools, and I did that for a couple of years, and I was setting up the victims and the kids, so that way it's kind of to deter drunk driving, of course. And then be able to teach the kids that, it only happens in 15 minutes, and things can end up happening, and don't be in the wrong situation at the wrong time. And I also helped out with, I am helping out with the triage makeups out in Paris, California, which I get Moreno Valley, which is a live action drill, just in case, like there's a live shooter, and I have to be out there, and I've got to set up the scenario for the police department to roll in there and make sure that the site is okay for police department to end up taking care of the situation. Also, too, I worked with the military doing it was also triage makeup, but it was also for training of mentally disabled veterans, and it was a training video. It was an 8-hour training video that they did for the veterans and the nurses for mental health in LA, and that would help them out. The nurses help them out to handle the veterans. So I bounce around also to special effects makeup, so I can get called in, and
I'm writing a list right now, so I can read it off when you give me a break. Go ahead.
Okay. So I get called out to end up helping build bodies, or help build monsters, or build different types of other stuff when things end up happening. And then I also build floats. That was another thing too. Is I work with the nonprofit, which is the Oxnard Oddfellows Lodge. And along with Soto Designs, but I also help out nonprofits, which is one of them was the GLAD Association, and it's for deaf students. And it was the first time that they had a float, and the lady came up to me and she wanted to know what the best way of having a float was, because they are deaf students. And so we built them a float, and they won first place last year.
So I got videos. You do galleries that I've seen. Like you do the seasonal stuff, Christmas, and I remember you're going to help down here too with the Halloween parade, special effects, puppets, makeup, props, floats, and then we didn't say it. So if they want to look you up, we should have said it a couple times. Soto Design.
Soto Designs. Also, too, my website is 3D, the number 3D. FX.
Got it.
.iwarp, IWARP. .com.
All right, Scotty will put that on the bottom too. But man, he does it all. And so what happened was, again, going back to some of our history, when he talked about his art, when we had, I started off the 101 basic filmmaking, then I had the 102, which is where we did OCTV, the show. And that's where I started hosting, because I did a mockumentary in the 101, and I was Kevin Brandon, Channel 8. It's Kevin Brandon, Channel 8 News here, and they're going to cut down this tree, and this is a Chumash tree, and we had to interview students, right? And I was the host, and my teacher, Andres, was like, Orozco said, you got talent. You need to go out for OCTV. So I auditioned and I killed it. And so we would film the show in that one studio. And then you did all the OCTV, all the artwork on the door and stuff. Did they let you keep the door when they closed the facility?
No. They asked me if I wanted to keep the door, but unfortunately, actually, I was doing tape swapping for the public access channel at the time.
And we ran our Real Anglers. We ran like 4 seasons on that mug.
Yeah. So what happened was they hired me to do tape swap. So I was in there, and during tape swap, if you're not really doing anything, then it gets kind of boring. So I told one of my supervisors, hey man, I'm gonna paint the door, let's get this door painted. And so they hired me to paint the door, and it stayed there for years.
OCTV, Oxnard College Television.
Yeah,
that was Kevin's world, and that's when I knew. I'll tell you, when I knew I was going to be a filmmaker, we were doing that the clip for the OCTV. It was called the Downtown Chow. So we went downtown and we did Charlene's restaurant, and it was like get right before you get right, so you could eat and then you could get your boogie on at the same time. And they had chicken and waffles, so we went down there and we filmed in their kitchen again. My Diners Drive-In and Dives. Did the whole Diners Drive-In and Dive thing, and we're filming it, me and Maria Mayo and Josh Martinez, and we said 2 shorts at the Ventura Theater. And she went over there and was like, yeah, we're with this film crew, so they let us in the Ventura Theater for free. I got the camera and I'm filming, I'm carrying all the equipment because I went to school to kind of more be the camera guy, right? Videographer, before they said, hey, we need you in front of the camera too. Right. And I was interviewing Too Short, man, from me to 10 feet away, and this is one of my favorite rappers, and the game that he's teaching, and I remember looking around the camera like, what's up? And then going back to film, and there was some Hell's Angel in there, and he's the guy watching, and Too Short got a couple of his girls with him in a Mercedes, but I remember that's the day I said I want to be a filmmaker. We filmed our Dine-In and Drives for the scene, and then we were able to get into places with the camera and our little badge. Remember, we made these little OCTV badges that we would wear around. That's awesome. And he would say, wave the student flag. So we started filming, and then ended up starting All Lit Up Productions, me and Josh Martinez. And then I went into it, man. So we crossed paths right there. So this is Condor alumni right here.
Yep.
Condors for life.
Yep. And
do you let me ask that? Do you recommend, because I say not everybody has to go to college to be an entrepreneur, you don't. But I think there's specialized knowledge you can get. So if you could take courses that are designed for what you're intended, like art classes and film classes, to go along and take those types of courses.
For
us, and the reason I say that, let me clarify that, is because the academic side of it, I'm not going to really pay that. That's not as important to me, doing all the math and all the other stuff, all the preregs that go with it. I just wanted to go for film only, and that's what I did, and here I am now.
Yeah, that was kind of the same thing. Is I didn't end up graduating from Oxford.
Me either.
But I ended up taking all the art classes.
Right. That's what I did.
So I took all the art classes at Oxford College, and I took all the art classes at Ventura College. And they asked me, they go, did you graduate? No, I didn't graduate. But, I ended up, that was kind of one of my things, is since I couldn't really afford to, I had an opportunity of going to Cal Arts. And Cal Arts was a big Disney school at the time. But since I was a young father, I had to make sure I was focused on taking care of my family and taking care of my work to bring in money. So what I did was I ended up taking all the art classes that I needed to take, but I did have a hard time taking some of the art classes because I ended up teaching the classes instead of going to the classes.
That's you for sure.
Yeah,
I could tell you're a teacher, man.
So I would show up to the classes and the students were like, hey, well, what are we doing this week? I was like, wait a second, guys. I said, I'm not the teacher, and you got to go talk to the teacher.
That sounds like, again, like when I went there to do film, not to, I'm just agreeing with you. Some of us are like, we just got a bug, where people are drawn to us because of our love for our art. I think, again, we're not here. We're, I remember when I was on OCTV, the other host would just come in and stand on their mark and read the teleprompter. Where I was like taping down wires. I helped 3 other students with their film projects. We filmed, what was it called? The moment I was the Marine, me and Josh Martinez, the Shiznit or something. I was a drill sergeant, and we would go in on these student budgets where we just show up with like a pack of water and this big old sandwich from the Ralph's section, and we would eat that as our caterer for them.
Yeah. I mean, you could do it. I mean, the whole thing is just to have the passion, like you. I mean, I don't know anybody who has so much energy as you.
I even gave him my pre-workout.
Yeah. So I mean, Kevin has the most energy. I'm just like, okay, well, we'll get the artwork done when I can. But as you know, when you start getting older, you start kind of like, okay, I can
Well, that's
chill a
where
little bit.
I'm at now. We got some funding so I could focus back on my art.
Uh-huh.
The nonprofit's doing well, and then again by bringing in VACE, the film students from
Right.
there, CAPS, and these other organizations to help us design this film, and the musicians, then I could do that while I don't have to be everywhere anymore because we're funded through this Oceans of Opportunity and probation. We're able to tie in this career pathway with that section of it, so it's all symbiotic. But I don't have to be everywhere no more. I can kind of get off at 6 o'clock now, get my workout in,
Right.
and settle back and even take
Yeah.
a day off to go fish or hike myself.
Yeah.
Um,
I got to get you to get me into some of those workouts now.
let's
I
go.
was doing
Yeah.
MMA for a while, but I got to start getting into some of those workouts now.
I switched mine up for just like, I don't want to just bodybuild and weight train. I mean, and I got a coach, and we're still going back and forth on it because it still looks like it's switching back to weightlifting, where I'm really wanted to be like, I'm going to go buy a wetsuit this weekend to surf more, get in the water more, hit training, more
Right.
kettlebell swinging and pushing the sled around,
Right.
and getting that sweat going, and then hitting a couple sets and some push-ups. So I've been combining more exercising with my weightlifting.
Yeah,
you know?
I was doing MMA.
And a boxing class I started taking.
I was doing MMA for a while, and then part of it was mostly, it wasn't just to, I mean, the sparring was fun and everything else, but you know, I didn't want to end up being fully 100% in the ring.
How big are you? Or how tall are you? 6'6". Yeah.
6'6", 240. Yeah. So, you know, I was, and that was another thing too, is a lot of the guys who they squared me up with, they were little guys. I mean, compared to me, I'm a pretty big guy. So I was doing the MMA thing, and it was mostly just for training. You know, once you start getting older, you got to keep moving around. I'm pretty flexible as it is, but you know, you just got to keep moving.
Yeah, got to keep the mobility, flexibility, and that windedness too. Like that's what I was telling my coach. Like, I don't want to just weights. I want to be able to run around Santa Cruz Island and jog around. I don't want to just be buff. I want the millet. I want the Navy SEAL / prisoner / workout look. You know what I mean? Like Kobe trains to have legs to get into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs, right? So I need to start training with that endurance and the muscularity at the same time.
The leg training is always the worst.
I got legs today. And that's why I moved to HIIT training, and we won't get too far, because the HIIT training, I was dragging the sled around and doing some lower body HIIT training with thrusters and kettlebells, and then I had legs day the next day. So we kind of moved it around because it needed a little recovery. But enough about working out. So this is my good friend, man. Bring in Chongo some more. Let him get some time in there. Good friend of ours, man. When I needed our windows done, I knew who to call. He did the signs for us outside, man. I got his art in my living room because my mom passed away, so I made sure I kept the little Feed Me Seymour. It sits there in my nightstand in my living room. So much creativity, so much drive. Again, he was going to take a class, and he was leading the class. That's just what kind of, you know, the way his mind thinks. And I like Carl that, again, the way that, again, when the reason I brought the Bob Ross guy, we got all our coastal critters here. We got puppets. We got coastal critters. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? It's kind of, hey, Congo, get in there, Congo.
Hey, what's going on?
It's bananas in here, man.
Hey.
But is that you have this attitude?
Bananas. Where's bananas?
But you have this attitude of, you know, that's what I mean. The Bob Ross is just like, don't let it overcome you. Don't let it overwhelm you. Just, you know.
Just enjoy it, you know, enjoy it. And another thing too about artwork is, I keep telling people, it's not going to be perfect. Your artwork is your artwork, and other people's artwork is their artwork. It's different, you know, different environments of experiences of what you end up putting into your artwork. You know, it's the same thing with food. You know, I can always say my mom's food is the best food in the world, and you could say your mom's food is the best thing in the world. It's just because we're from different environments. I've never tried. You know, I wasn't brought up.
I think my mom's best thing was her beef stroganoff. That was her go-to.
I mean, my mom makes all kinds of Mexican food, and she's just like, you know, my mom's food is great, and his mom's food's great. You know, you're always going to say that my mom's food's the greatest, but you know, it's just because you're from different environments, and that's the way your art is you're from different environments, so your art is not
expression, right?
Perfect.
Yeah. And expression too, right?
Yeah.
Don't lose your expression. Don't
to
the others. All right, we got to wrap it up. I got to go try to get
stuff once more.
Okay, what the website? Hey, they're over there. What are we doing? Okay, the website is 3dfx.iwarp.com. Okay,
that's right.
Everybody.
Soto Designs, Carl Soto, Chongo, all of our coastal critters. We're going to get a picture with these guys before we leave. It's important, but I got to get out of here. Trying to get a new whip, and I got to go teach class up in Carpinteria because I'm a teacher now too. And we'll see you guys, man. We're going to get to the studio. We're going to bring this together. And it's going to be a beautiful artwork out here in the 805, but we're going to go global. Me and Scotty were just talking about that with our productions coming soon.
Bye, everybody.
Sound good? All right. I want him to say, let's go to the camera.
Let's go to the camera.
No, say, let's go.
Oh, let's go.
To learn more about Real Guppy Outdoors, please visit www.communitykevin.com. Brought to you by AftCo Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Island Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.